What if I told you that the worst year in human history wasn't the year of the Black Death, nor the fall of Rome, nor the two world wars? Imagine a time when the sun simply stopped shining, a year so bleak and horrifying that even the most hardened chroniclers wrote of endless winter, famine, and despair. Welcome to 536 AD. The year a shroud fell across the earth, plunging entire civilizations into darkness, chaos, and silence. And almost no one talks about it. So, what actually happened in 536 AD? Why did the world seem to end, and how did humanity claw its way back from the edge? Let's unravel the mystery of history's lost catastrophe. A disaster so profound it left scars that echo through centuries. To truly understand 536, picture yourself in Constantinople, the beating heart of the Byzantine Empire. It's early spring, yet the city is shivering under a cold, gray sky. The great dome of Hagia Sophia, usually aglow with golden sunlight, sits beneath a perpetual twilight. The Emperor Justinian, ruler of a world-spanning realm, looks out over the Bosphorus and sees only gloom. But it's not just the Byzantines. Far away in Ireland, monks huddle by candlelight, scribbling cryptic entries into annals. A failure of bread from the years 536 to 539. In China, imperial historians note a yellow dust that dimmed the sun. In the Andes, ancient tree rings record the coldest decade in 2 millennia. The catastrophe was global, but what caused it? Let's start with the most haunting detail. The sun simply stopped shining. Procopius, the great Byzantine historian, wrote that the sun gave forth its light without brightness, like the moon, during the whole year. For 18 months, day after day, a thick haze blotted out the sky. People watched in horror as crops withered, snow fell in summer, and famine gripped the known world. Now, you might be wondering, was this just medieval exaggeration? But the evidence piles up. Tree rings from Ireland, Sweden, and North America all show a sharp drop in growth starting in 536. Ice cores from Greenland and Antarctica reveal a spike in volcanic ash. Even modern climate scientists agree. Something massive and catastrophic happened. The question is, what? The leading theory points to a colossal volcanic eruption, possibly in Iceland or somewhere far to the north. Imagine a blast so powerful it hurled millions of tons of sulfur into the upper atmosphere, creating a veil that scattered sunlight across the globe. The world was plunged into a volcanic winter, with temperatures dropping by as much as 2.5 degrees Celsius. For medieval farmers, that might as well have been the apocalypse. But this is more than just climate science. The stories of 536 ripple through every corner of the world's history. In Italy, the Gothic War raged as armies clashed for control of the crumbling Western Roman Empire. Now, imagine fighting a war when your soldiers are starving, the rivers freeze, and disease stalks the camps. In China, the Northern Wei dynasty fractured, with warlords battling for scraps in a land haunted by drought and snow. In Mesoamerica, the great city of Teotihuacan, once a metropolis rivaling Rome, began its mysterious decline. And in the British Isles, kingdoms vanished from the map, swallowed by hunger and tribal chaos. Can you picture what it must have felt like? You wake up, and the world is gray. The sun, once a blazing god, becomes a ghost in the sky. Your fields fail. Your animals die. Bread shrinks to a crust. You pray, but the darkness does not lift. Did people think the world was ending? For many, it might as well have been. Let's zoom in on a few personal stories, because history isn't just about nations, it's about people caught in the storm. In Constantinople, the Emperor Justinian faced a nightmare scenario. Not only famine, but a sudden, deadly plague that would erupt a few years later, the infamous Justinianic plague. Some historians believe the weakened, hungry population, battered by years of darkness, was the perfect breeding ground for disease. The result? Up to half the population of the Mediterranean died in waves of pestilence. It's a chilling preview of what would later happen during the Black Death. In Ireland, annalists recorded the failure of bread for 3 years straight. Archaeologists have found mass graves and abandoned settlements, signs of famine so severe that entire communities collapsed. Even the mighty Norse, known for their hardiness, left behind tales of Fimbulwinter, a never-ending winter from their sagas that eerily echoes the real events of 536. But why did this event vanish from popular history? Why isn't 536 AD a household name, as infamous as Pompeii or the Black Death? Part of the reason is that it happened at the threshold of the so-called Dark Ages, a period already shrouded in mystery, where written records are rare and fragmented. Civilizations were already fragile, and the catastrophe seemed to push them over the edge. What's fascinating is how the echoes of 536 shaped the next several centuries. The Byzantine Empire, once the unchallenged power of the Mediterranean, was weakened by famine, war, and plague. This vacuum gave rise to new powers, Arab caliphates, Frankish kingdoms, and Slavic tribes, redrawing the map of Europe and Asia. In China, the chaos helped set the stage for the rise of the Sui and Tang dynasties, which would eventually unite the country and launch a golden age. In the Americas, the great cities of the Maya and Teotihuacan faltered, opening the door for new cultures to rise. But let's get back to the heart of the mystery. For centuries, historians could only speculate about the cause. Was it a volcano? A comet? Divine wrath? Then, in the 1990s and 2000s, scientists began drilling deep into the Greenland and Antarctic ice sheets. Layer after layer, they found unmistakable traces of volcanic glass and sulfur, timestamped right at 536 AD. The evidence was overwhelming. A massive eruption, or perhaps even a double eruption, had occurred. Some researchers suggest that a second, smaller eruption in 540 AD prolonged the misery, creating a double whammy that kept the world cold and hungry for years. But here's a mind-bending twist. No one knows for sure which volcano was responsible. The candidates include Iceland, Alaska, and even Central America. But the culprit remains mysterious, a lost disaster, hiding its origin even as its effects shaped the fate of millions. It's almost poetic. A catastrophe so huge that it nearly erased history itself, yet so secretive that even today, we're still piecing together the clues. Imagine the psychological toll. Medieval people didn't have scientific explanations. To them, the sun's fading was a sign of cosmic disorder, the wrath of God, or the end times. Poets wrote of a sun without rays, of cold, hunger, and death. The world's faith systems were shaken. In some places, apocalyptic cults sprang up. In others, rulers lost legitimacy, blamed for failing to stop the doom. Now, here's one of history's great ironies. Sometimes, it's the catastrophes we forget that end up shaping everything that comes after. The darkness of 536 may have been the spark that ignited centuries of change, toppling empires, sparking migrations, and creating the conditions for new cultures to emerge. The world that came out of the darkness was not the same as the one that entered it. Let's talk about some of the myths. Some people call the period after 536 the Dark Ages, as if civilization simply disappeared. That's not quite true. Yes, there was collapse and chaos, but also resilience and adaptation. In the Byzantine world, scholars and monks preserved ancient texts, copying manuscripts by candlelight. In China, poets wrote of hardship but also of hope and renewal. Across the world, survivors rebuilt, learned new ways of farming, and adapted to the colder, harsher climate. History isn't just a story of disaster, it's a story of survival. You might be wondering, could something like this happen again? The chilling answer is yes. Volcanic eruptions on the scale of 536 are rare, but they do happen. Think of Tambora in 1815, which caused the infamous year without a summer. Our modern world, with its global supply chains and interdependence, might be even more vulnerable than medieval society. Imagine New York or Tokyo plunged into darkness, crops failing across continents, and the panic that would follow. History isn't just about the past, it's a warning for the future. But perhaps the most haunting legacy of 536 is its silence. For centuries, the story was forgotten, buried in fragmented records and half-remembered myths. Only now are we beginning to give it the attention it deserves. Why do we remember some catastrophes and not others? Maybe it's because the survivors of 536 had more urgent concerns, like finding enough food to make it through another day. Yet, the echoes are everywhere if you know where to look. In the oldest Irish chronicles. In legends of a sun that would not rise. In the bones of famine victims buried far from home. History is like that. Sometimes the greatest stories are the ones that almost vanish. So, what can we learn from the year the sun disappeared? For one, it's a sobering reminder of how fragile civilizations can be. All it takes is a single, unexpected event, a volcanic eruption, a plague, a sudden darkness, and the world can change overnight. But it's also a testament to human endurance. Against all odds, people survived, rebuilt, and carried their stories forward. If you've made it this far, you're officially part of a tiny group who knows about the forgotten disaster of 536 AD. The real, dark age that nearly erased civilization. If you love diving into history's mysteries, make sure to subscribe to History Owl, where we uncover the stories that shaped, and almost unmade, the world. What other secrets lie buried in the shadows of the past? Stick around, and let's find out together.